We'll call to order this town council meeting on September 12th, 2023 at 7:05 p.m. Everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance and followed by a full minute of silence to recognize and remember 9/11 as well as the passing of former firefighter and EMT Dale Zahner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 4, proclamations and presentations. Proclamation request recognizing the efforts of Jack Gallagher. I just want to thank all the council members who reached out with concerns, or members of the public. We had a robust conversation, and so further edits were made before bringing back this proclamation for final approval to be presented at the end of the month. This was a request by a resident in town, Mr. Dave Lewis, who reached out using the form and was deemed appropriate under the proclamation policy. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proclamation request recognizing the efforts of Jack Gallagher, and we'll follow that with the discussion.
So moved.
So by Councilor Murray, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Yudichak. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Councilor Murray.
I appreciate the progression of this proclamation to the council. Steve, I think that I greatly appreciate that you considered this proclamation and passed it along. I'm disappointed that the current state of the proclamation does not fully accommodate the request that was made, but I do believe that just actions in our community are proclamation worthy, and I'm comfortable with where it is.
Any other conversation or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I believe that it is unanimous. Any opposed? Nope. Seeing none. All right, that moves forward. That brings us to item 5, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council with a 2-minute limit. If you're on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand function or *9 if you're on a mobile device. Otherwise, if you're in the audience, you can approach the table and state your name and address for the record, and we will.
Just a question if you was here for present the proclamation. Or
No.
Oh, no, sorry, yeah.
Not that. I was wondering if we're supposed to move Scott.
No, that's going to be after these other businesses. Sorry, I appreciate it. We'll do public participation first. So we'll start as per tradition. We'll start with in person. So if anyone would like to approach the table and state their name and address, and then we'll hop down the line. If anyone on Zoom wants to participate, we'll go back and forth until we're completed.
Good evening. Celeste Seneschal, 19 Joe Savage Drive, Holland. I just want to urge the council to think about maintaining the infrastructure that the town has. Again, I live on a road that hasn't been maintained for 31 years. It's not scheduled to be maintained for another 2 years. And even if you put a sidewalk on the green, you're still responsible for maintaining the sidewalk around the green. There's that project that still needs to be done. And I would, urge you to start on that project as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. And then Jody Coleman-Marziello. Make sure you're asked to unmute. There you go. Should be all set.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Thank you, Jody.
I just wanted to give a statement from the Historic District Commission regarding tonight's agenda item number 8.2. Due to the cancellation of the Design Advisory Board's meeting last week, we asked that you postpone item number 8-2 listed on tonight's agenda in order to allow the Design Advisory Board time to provide a recommendation on the ADA concrete sidewalk structure as requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Additionally, since the town green is listed as a historical site on the town's official archaeological map, proper notification to the state archaeologist is required before any decisions are approved. In the adopted 2019 Plan of Conservation and Development Plan, on page 67, it states, number 10, continue to refer plans to the state archaeologist when development is proposed in archaeological sensitive areas. The Historic District Commission feels the green definitely qualifies as an archaeological sensitive area. This study was done in limited areas prior to the Connecticut DOT corridor project. And as a municipality, you have an obligation to follow both of these protocols prior to moving forward. So we ask that this agenda item be postponed in order to allow adequate time for this to happen. And then I had a personal statement that I wanted to do. I am Jody Coleman-Marziello, 79 Tolland Green. I heard people say this town is about the people, and you're right, but it's not just about the people of today. It also includes the ones that are no longer with us, the ones who should be honored and remembered for going off to war to protect our country, the families who settled in Tolland and endured long, harsh winters, not knowing if their food stocks would last till spring. At the public hearing on August 22nd, a gentleman mentioned and pointed to the inclusion sign. Well, above you as council members is our town seal of Settlers Rock, where legend has it that the earliest surveyors of Tolland sheltered from the elements while mapping out our town today and the areas that we live in. The green is on the National Registry of Historic Places for this very reason and should be preserved in character and appearance. To date, 3 historic architects have stated that the existing historic sidewalks can be repaired and leveled. Phil Barlow presented a town-wide presentation in June of 2022, giving a cost estimate of $150,000 to $180,000 to do this. David Goslin of Cross Key Architects also provided this information where the sidewalks can be leveled and repaired in an email that was shared with council and the interim town manager, Lisa Hancock, on November 4th, 2021. And Thomas Elmore of Elmore Design Collaboratives also provided feedback to the town regarding leveling and repairing the existing sidewalks that they have. So 3 professionals who do this for a living have stated that this can be done. And I feel as a municipality, they have not done this, and that they should level them and edge them because many of them are already 48 inches wide, which is ADA compliant. Thank you very much.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We just heard a statement from the Historic District Commission. However, the Historic District Commission has not met since August 16th of this year. And during that meeting, which I attended, that statement was not part of the agenda. So I'm concerned about something being presented to us on behalf or from a appointed committee that was perhaps done outside of a legal meeting.
All right, well, I think we can possibly look into that, but I guess in that case, that testimony from the historic district shouldn't be included in the minutes if it's not officially approved and authorized by the historic district at a legally sanctioned meeting, so. But we will incorporate Jody's testimony as a resident.
Sorry, strike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Murray, for that point of order. So we will revert back to in person and the gentleman in the back left corner with the glasses. Unless you want to defer to
Go ahead.
Sharon.
Dennis Deegan, 689 Collins Stage Road. I was kind of curious. I know in the last meeting I attended, talked a little bit about history and the significance of history. And so I was curious because the house I'm living in actually has a National Historic Landmark designation going back to 1970, which was the property owned by our uncle going back to 1950. And I know the pride that he took in the significance of that, as both my aunt and uncle did. I'm curious, has anyone here actually read what's required for an NHL designation? If not, I suggest actually you might want to do so before you do vote, because I found it pretty interesting. Basically says for nomination to, as an NHL, in simple terms, and this was right off the document on file in the internet, be a national significance under one or more of the 6 NHL criteria. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm presuming that the reason the green was designated was because of one or two, one being be the location of an event that had a significant impact on American history overall, or providing an outstanding illustration of a broad theme or trend in American history overall. What is also in here from the National Historic Landmark designation requirement, it focuses on what I might think anyways, is a high degree of integrity, okay? So in order for something to get that designation and keep that designation, it has to have a high degree of integrity. And I don't know that I want to bore you with everything in here, but basically it says that if the resources, I have to check if the resource has been more than modestly modified or has deteriorated since the designation, I'm ad-libbing there, or paraphrasing, excuse me, it may meet a national registered threshold for integrity, but not the higher NHL standard or designation, okay? So obviously the intent of this is to maintain a very high degree of integrity for the purpose for which it was established. I guess the next thing I turned to was looking at the designation of the commission, the historic commission in the town and what their purpose.
So my apologies, Mr. Deegan, I gave Jody a little bit of breath, but just as a reminder, it's a 2-minute limit for public participation.
Yeah, I know, especially, listen, I've been involved in other towns, been on finance committees in other towns, and I know how it works. So let me just say this, and I'll paraphrase the rest of it. As I understand it from reading this, it's the designated purpose of the Historic Commission to provide all of you with counsel and recommendation and purpose for any action to be taken in a historical area. And then it's, according to this, their decision as to whether or not they agree to provide a certificate of appropriateness. So I guess the question I have for all of you is, what I couldn't find is anything in what's written about the charter for this town where your ability to override them and their insight in terms of their role to maintain that property is up to you, and you get to decide and you alone get to decide. So, because that's the conclusion of my thoughts. So I don't know whether you're interested and willing to answer any part of that, but I certainly welcome that.
We can certainly answer it when we get to that agenda item. I think it was covered in our hearing, but I'm sure Mr. Foley will clarify. All right, we'll go to Zoom with Gail White. And I'll ask you to unmute, and as a reminder, a 2-minute limit on any topic within the jurisdiction of the town council.
Right. Thank you, Gail White, Director, Daniel Benton Homestead Museum, 156 Metcalf Road. And in the interest of the 2 minutes, I will read just portions of a letter from the state archaeologist to the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You will also have received a copy of this letter. At the request of several concerned Tolland residents, the Office of State Archaeology reviewed the available project information related to the proposed ADA sidewalk on Tolland Green. The landscape of the Tolland Green is a key aspect of the district's historic significance and character. For its appearance today is not markedly different from that of the 1830s. The green has been used as a community space since the early 18th century and was the location of militia training, as well as town, social, religious, and political activities. As such, the green has the potential to contain buried archaeological resources related to its historic use. The OSA understands the need for accessible public spaces, but the planned sidewalk represents a major impact to the historic character of the green and will be an adverse effect on the historic district. The planned construction of the sidewalk may also result in ground disturbing activities in portions of the green. OSA strongly recommends that the town of Tolland take the historic significance and archaeological potential of the green into account as it moves forward with plans for the sidewalk. If the development project proceeds and involves ground disturbance, OSA recommends that the town request a professional archaeological survey of the planned area of sidewalk development. The goal of such a survey would be to identify significant buried archaeological resources in the sidewalk footprint so they can be avoided or mitigated prior to any ground disturbing activities associated with its construction. Included with this letter is a list of qualified local archaeological consultants. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Sarah P. Sportman, PhD, state archaeologist, copy to Catherine Labadia and Corey Atkinson, Connecticut State Historic Preservation Organization. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yes, thank you, Gail, for speaking. All right, we'll go back to in person. Sharon LaPlante.
Sharon LaPlante, 68 Whiteville Road in Harlem. I gave Steve, just before the meeting, I gave him a copy of the archaeological sites in Tolland. And there's so many that it's really remarkable. So we have a rich archaeological history in this town. Okay. Now, regardless of what is said tonight or what happens, I do indeed think that you're going ahead and you're going to storm ahead and you're going to vote yes on your sidewalk. You will vote yes, despite the fact that the green is already fully compliant with ADA regulations. You will vote yes, despite the overwhelming abundance of diverse federal, state, local policies, rules, regulations, laws, directives, codes, statutes, and input from various commissions that state you really should not do so, or you really cannot do so. You will vote yes, despite the historical significance of this sliver of living history. This is a national, state, and local treasure. You will vote yes, despite the fact that you know that this sidewalk will morph into a park. You gotta be honest with the folks that are in this room and the folks in this town, that you are indeed voting for more than just a sidewalk. And you have to make this clear. If you had made it clear in the beginning, there would be more of an overwhelming presence here to oppose it. This is not about ADA. It's not about ADA accessibility. And this is not about those with physical challenges. This is about a park, a thing, a mundane, common, municipal thing. It seems like you guys are on a mission from God with the abject, obdurate indifference, the common sense, legal restraints, community responsibility, and the entire truth. Someone wants a park in their neighborhood. Someone is entitled. You shall give and they shall receive. That's the totality and complete sum of it all. When you step upon that green right now, you hear the past. The green speaks to you. The green adds voices and events every day to history's repertoire. The green is alive. You step upon your park when you have your park out there. What are you going to hear when you step upon that? All you're going to hear is the weeping and sobbing of the ground beneath your feet.
Thank you, Sharon. Seeing no one online, we continue with in-person participation. If anyone would like to approach the table. Not like.
Ron Lappin, 168 Mountain Spring Road. Hello, Town Council. I hope you received my email correspondence. Thankfully, I'm not here to talk about the green, but rather contaminated well water at 168 Mountain Spring Road. I asked a lot of questions at the last meeting, and I'm hoping that answers will be forthcoming. And looking at the Langen report, the best recommendation at this time is to drill a deeper well. And I am unsure if the newly drilled one from May of 2021 can be extended or not, but either way, according to well drilling companies, the best time to drill a well is during the winter months, when there is the least amount of impact to the ground from these heavy pieces of equipment that are needed. It is also the easiest time to clean the yard from what is extracted from the earth when drilling operations commence. I would hope this project moves along more quickly because speaking to my attorney, I was made aware of the fact that the deductible on my property from the claim that was filed has already been met. This issue was first reported to the town about 7 years ago at this point, at which point the town immediately filed a claim on behalf of my property. I did not do so. The deductible at that point in time for the homeowner claims against the town were lower than some of the more recent claims. To my knowledge, that difference in deductibles is $10,000 for the older claims versus the newer properties that have deductibles of $75,000. If this is the case, and you have an environmental consulting expert firm with which this town council approved and contracted with, and is recommending a deeper well to solve my issues, and my deductible has already been met in regards to this claim, then I see no reason not to expedite this process and keep things moving in a positive direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean. All right, we'll go back to online. I know there's a few names up there. We'll start with Mary Garrett. I'll ask you to unmute. There you go. You should be all set. No, not yet. Okay, while we're running into technical issues, I'm going to switch over to Susan Luchek Hughes. I'll ask them to unmute. We'll go back to Mary afterwards. All right, Susan, you should be unmuted now.
Hi there. Susan Lusak Hughes, 95 Talon Green, parent of a young adult with a lifelong disability, as well as chair of the Talon Commission on People with Disabilities. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my support once again ahead of your deliberation and decision tonight on the sidewalk proposal for the Talon Green. You've heard from many people in this community during the public hearing in support of this topic. And I want to just say again, this issue is about people, not about history, grass, or even surface materials. It's about how we as a town decide to demonstrate how we value our people, the residents of this town, especially those with challenges and disabilities. When our commission first started this whole ask 3 to 4 years ago, it was about accessibility in our town center. Our town center, which offers churches, museums, our town hall, our board of ed, our art center, our library, and an elementary school. Our town center, which is the center of our town, which is also completely inaccessible from one end to another to anyone with a physical or visual impairment. So it's not only the social and town events and markets that should be accessible. It's also our municipal, educational, cultural, and historic center that should be accessible to everyone. And still, 4 years later, it's not. I completely reject the notion that Talon Green is already ADA compliant with its 8 ADA access points. I completely reject the notion that people in wheelchairs can get around on the grass just fine. whether it be at the Hicks Museum events or on the green itself. Why do I think I know this? Because my family lives with it. That's why. This is our life 24 hours a day, and we face obstacles like this every day. But you know what's worse? Facing the attitude that it's not important enough to change. You, the town council, who have been elected to represent our community, have the power to make this change, the authority to make this change. I believe that you understand all the aspects of this issue and have the compassion to make the right choice for every person in our community. There is no doubt that the historic green and everything on it will survive and thrive as it has for the past 300 years and as it will for the next 300. Please see this walkway as an improvement for all residents to use our town center, our town green, as an accessible path to the entire town center. All residents deserve the right to access all of our town center equally. Thank you for the time that you've invested over the years and your consideration of this important matter and your decision tonight. Thank you very much.
You have in-person public participation and would like to approach the table, state your name and address.
I don't think I'm gonna have time to read all this. Mary Pat Susie, 111 Torrey Road. I'm gonna summarize this, obviously for the sake of time. As you all know, I do a lot of things in Tolland, and I had a really good line in here because I've been working since 2010 for the town of Tolland. I don't get paid though, but my husband would argue that I work too much for the town of Tolland. But on August 28th, I attended and spoke on the very lengthy Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Their motion summarized how I feel. That motion is that they unanimously support access for all people of Town Green. The 824 referral presented a concrete walkway is not acceptable due to the walkway material presented. Lack of alternative options were provided. PZZ gives it an unfavorable recommendation, but they are appreciative of the improvements of the design concept. So I wholeheartedly agree with their decision. I agree with it because I'm a naturalist and I've spent a lot of time on the green. And I know that things can change, but it has to change right. So here's why I'm worried though. A few weeks ago, an ADA commission member came to me at the town tent at the farmer's market, because I do the farmer's market now, which is really going wonderfully. She wanted to talk about the plan and I told her I was just against the concrete. She said that once the sidewalks are in there, there will be benches and flower pots along the green so that everybody can come enjoy the green. And I countered her statement with, what the heck are you talking about? I've seen family picnics on the green. Old guys meet on Sundays to drink coffee. I see kids and bikes hang out under the tree. I'm on the green a lot. So I was really surprised by that. The green is being used by residents. So I'm thinking to myself, is this a scene from Mission Impossible movie? Like, is there a plan within the plan for a plan? Like, I mean, I was really shocked that that conversation happened. So I will recite again the definition of the town of Tolland. The town character is one of the top characteristics that residents clearly want their valued quality of life maintained as Tolland grows. People are agreeing Tolland will grow and change a little bit. I urge the town council to make the decision wisely. If you honor PZC, you could pass the project, but put conditions on it, or you could vote no and ask the town manager to work out another compromise. All the parties would be happy to. Let's get a plan that honors our historic green and our physically challenged residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll go back to Zoom. We give Mary Garrett another shot. I'll click the ask to unmute and you should be all set now.
Good evening, Mary Garrett, 151 Cosley Road, Tolland, Connecticut. I just want to talk briefly about the sidewalk. History is defined as a study of past events, in particularly human affairs. As we know, history is not stagnant It is created every single day. The sidewalk on the green has been thought out and planned to the finest of details in regards to respect, construction, history, placement, our citizens, young, old, fully able-bodied, and those people that require assistance. One day, if you are lucky enough to become much, much older, or sadly unfortunate due to an accident, illness, or other situations, you will too require easier access to areas you enjoy and love and traverse today. Please make a statement by being part of history. Have compassion by supporting the sidewalk project on the Tolland Green for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And we'll go back to in-person participation. If anyone would like to approach the table and state the name, address, record for 2 minutes. All right, Marilee?
So, Marilee Beebe, 90 Rose Road. I'm here tonight in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. A couple of items have been brought up, and some issues have been raised. So if the council desires clarification of those items, I'd be happy to answer them for you. One thing I will say is that the Design Advisory Board, we did aggressively request a review before we issued our 8-24 recommendation to the town council, and we were advised that the Design Advisory Board had declined to take that issue up. So it was not that they didn't have time to do it, it was that we were informed that they were not going to give us, we referred to them, they are advisory to us, and they declined to provide us with input.
Thank you, appreciate the clarification. All right, we'll go back to Zoom with John's iPad. So that's John Hughes. I'll ask you to unmute.
Oh, good evening, John Hughes, 95 Tolland Green. I know you heard from my wife, eloquently trying to appeal to put it in the sidewalk. I look at it from a little bit different perspective. Is I just don't see how it takes away from the historical significance of the green. I don't think it's going to be a real visible thing. You will see people walking on it, but you're not going to see this zipper of a concrete structure running down the middle of green. I think it then will allow the Historic Commission, which is so adamant about preserving this, to maybe get people to understand, to walk it and to put plaques and put a story of the green that nobody knows. They just drive by and no one knows. And now with a sidewalk of some sort, I'm not sure what it's going to be, but with access, people will be able to stroll through the green, find out what it's about, maybe get a feeling for this historic significance, as opposed to just driving by and saying, oh yeah, isn't that nice? I've traveled to historic sites from Washington State to Washington, D.C., and there's a significant amount of access by concrete or dirt trails or whatever it might be, but there is ADA access through many or not all of these historic sites, parks, monuments. Everywhere you go, they've put in walkways of some sort so people with wheelchairs and walkers and disabilities can get through and see why it's so important. I don't understand why we don't want to make it important by allowing people to see it. That's, yeah, and I'm sit on the Historic Commission. We tried to have this discussion before, and I'm just an alternate, so I don't have a whole lot to say about the letters, but I just don't see how it distracts or it takes away from the historical significance of the green by making it accessible. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, continue with in-person participation. Anyone would like to approach for a 2-minute limit, say your name and address. All right, seeing none, we'll move back to Zoom with Kathleen Bach. Now, let's give on you.
Hey.
Oh,
All right.
You should be You're good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kathy Bach, 255 Tolland Stage Road. I think the answer to some of the questions about why is it the green and why is it so important and why are why are there questions is because I don't think people basically understand what it is. It is the green. It's grass. That is it. That is what's so important. And there's only about a third of it left. That's why everybody is so passionate. It's not supposed to be full of monuments. It's not supposed to be full of sites that people come to. It is what is left of our historic green. That's why those who are speaking about the history of it want to maintain that little 40-foot wide piece that's left. It's grass, folks. That's what it is. And I think why people are concerned is because, and what I personally don't understand is the common sense of the accessibility issue. We meet the ADA compliance. And I know we're not going to agree on what accessible means. The council has a new definition from what is in the statutes. But your idea of accessible, the council's new definition of accessible, can't be met by 40-foot wide, a 4-foot wide sidewalk, not for the events that you are starting to put on the green. I watch the events and I see that you can't police people to stay on a 4-foot wide sidewalk. You have to accept the fact that they're going to be on the grass. So if they're going to be on the grass, what good is it to put a sidewalk on the grass and ruin a historic green? It is a green, folks. It is a historic green. So why are we changing the historic site? It's a grass. It's green. It's the green. If you put the sidewalk on that, if you change it and do as some of the speakers have said, open the door to other precedents, you are then starting to say it is just a municipal property. And then the municipal property opens the door to putting types of access, sidewalks, other places. Like, are you going to be doing this to other parks, other walking trails? Will we now start to pave them? Are our playing fields going to be susceptible? Are our cemeteries now going to have to be paved in certain places? I mean, what Pandora's box is going to be opened with this? It's a precedent that you're starting to set. And it raises these questions. This is our historic green, and it is a green. If you understand what a green is, you will understand it's a registered historic green. It doesn't get paved. It doesn't get monuments. It doesn't get sites of any other sort. Please do not change it to be something that it's not. Don't make it a park with sidewalks, benches, or planters. Don't open the door with precedents for these other objects to be placed there. Please just maintain it. That's not disrespectful to anyone else. If you are going to put activities on it that require more safety and more access, then move the activity. If the farmers market can no longer manage, as has been discussed over the last 20 years, then move it to a place where there's safe parking, safety from the highway, but don't destroy our historic green for the sake of something that's popular as a park. Move the park activity to a park or to a parking lot. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else in public who would like to speak? And we're switch back to Zoom again. Great, seeing none, we'll move back to Zoom, and I'm not sure who Community Children's Center will be, but I'll ask you to unmute and state your name and address for the record.
Sorry about that. I'm on the wrong Zoom. This is Kate Vallow, 80 Tolland Green. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your service in the town of Tolland. I actually just have a question. I did provide some comments, I believe at your last meeting regarding my thoughts on the sidewalks and the green. And I'm pleased to see that if you will be considering debating and voting on a plan, that it will be that July 24th design. I think that that was definitely the better iteration. The question that I have is about how we will be funding ongoing maintenance for the sidewalks. And I'm not actually talking about snow removal. I'm just talking about caring for the sidewalks. The town manager was so helpful getting a small section of sidewalk repaired in front of my house, which is on the green somewhat recently. And I really appreciate that. It was somewhat of a temporary fix. And there are several places of concrete sidewalks that have not been tended for, oh, now I have to think about how long I've been here. I don't know, like 15 years or something like that. So I know that it's not necessarily a regular budgeted thing to be caring for sidewalks that aren't the historic stones, just regular sidewalks in town. If you walk out the front door of the town hall when you leave the evening meeting this evening, you'll probably see a little bit what I'm talking about. So I'm just wondering what the maintenance plans are if we do go forward with that, and how we might be able to fold that into our operational budget, not just for that section of sidewalk, but for, any sidewalks in town. Thanks.
All right.
And thanks for changing my name too.
No problem. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak? All right, there's no one else on Zoom, so going once, going twice. We'll move on from public participation and move on to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the county council. I will start with the road salt task force. If Brian or Councilman Murray, if you have any updates to provide.
Sure, please.
You're gonna be more thorough than I am.
I don't think so.
We had a meeting. We talked about getting the latest version of the report out to the general public. We are preparing documents that for the investigation relating to the vineyards from Langdon will be going out very shortly. We're just waiting on one more green flag from our insurance carrier, and Mike Wilkinson is on that. There's going to be some best recommendations and best practices kind of stuff from health departments in relation to that. So hopefully, we'd like to have it out this week or next. It's just a matter of when the insurance company gives us the go ahead.
Thank you. Up over to the ARPA subcommittee.
Yes, so we met about a week ago. It was pretty quick. We talked about some items. One of them was a request from the historic district, which we will be doing at this time because we're hoping to spend money for the things that are coming down and capital items that really can help taxpayers. So, but I think that was the biggest item on there.
Fairly vanilla meeting.
And I just realized in my minutes, I stopped there.
No worries.
Lisa wasn't there and she does all the minutes. So anyways, I think that was it.
All right, and then Firehouse Subcommittee meeting, our next meeting is the 21st. There's ongoing developments there. I did have a chance to stop by Mr. Foley's office and he gave me a brief update. I believe there's a planning meeting between himself, Megan Moss and the chief regarding some ongoing efforts with the foundation. And we'll probably get more thorough update at that meeting on the 21st.
To build on that, Mr. Chair, yes, we're looking beyond now 340. And with the remaining funds that we have, the 5 million, including the 1 million from the state, we're looking at the most efficient and best way to spend that money moving forward, in the best interests of the town in the future, next decades, literally. In an effort to capture that best approach, enlisted Chief Vitale, Assistant Chief Dogen, and Fire Marshal Vika, our town engineer, and of course Megan Massa, our grants director, to get some consensus on the best way to move forward with the remaining monies. Keep in mind, 340, the station on Gearing Road is going to chew up the bear of the funds, and we'll have a little bit left for each of the other firehouses to at least update them or make them in much better condition to last a long time.
All right, thank you, Brian. That brings us to 7B, reports of town council liaisons, and I will start on my right since council meeting checks your at me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
So we were gonna meet on Monday for the Recreation Advisory Board, but due to lack of quorum, we did not. So that's all I actually have.
Councilor Luba?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That the VRC is resuming its its meetings after the summer break, and that the next one will be on the 21st.
Thank you. The Library Foundation met last night. They submitted a formal request that they do every year, a couple of years, to do their presentation of the budget, and they have several vacancies. Or not vacancies, they have several reappointments that will be approved as we've done in the past. They made some approvals for some equipment purchases. They're discussing, I believe, a meet and greet or open house at the library to attract more investors. They found some declines in United Way and other resources through the pandemic, so they're looking to reinvent and explore and expand, as well as the oral history project is ongoing. And then the Water Commission meets next week. I will be unable to attend as I'm out of state for personal reasons, so I'll have to refer the minutes at the next meeting for that. And that is it for me. So Councilor or Vice Chair Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning and zoning met last night. They had two business items. There was a presentation and discussion about a Starbucks to be located at 33 Fieldstone Commons. Second business item was discussion of an applicant proposing a soccer field next to Star Hill. They did take action on those two items. They approved both of those items. And then there was, which is relevant to our discussion tonight on our agenda item, discussion about the sidewalks on the green. And they did include a memo in our packet. I'm gonna take the time to read this verbatim. It's a short statement that they made, but I think it's important that the public understands, and anybody watching the video or reading the minutes understands. I'd asked Mr. Scuzzi to write this down verbatim and include it in our minutes. Quote, the Tallinn PZC unanimously supports access for all people on the Tallinn Green. The 824 referral as presented with a concrete walkway is not acceptable. Due to the walkway material presented and a lack of alternative options provided, the PZC gives an unfavorable recommendation to the 824 referral. The Tallinn PZC appreciated the improvements in the design concept of the walkway dated July 24th. However, the Tallinn PZC requests two alternative permeable options for the walkway material, unquote. So that was a basic statement that they made with their unfavorable referral about the sidewalks on the green. That took place on the 28th. I was unable to attend that meeting, but I just wanted to make sure that that got put into the record here.
I appreciate it, Vice Chair Regan. Thank you. Councilor Khan?
I got nothing to report.
Councilor Murray?
There's not much.
Thanks. That brings us to the conclusion of 7B. I will now, at our last meeting, due to the late hour and time of the hearing, we have old business 9.1 discussion on public works vehicle study. I'd like to entertain a motion to move that up before new business. So Mr. Lappin can provide his presentation, ask questions, and activate that process for him.
So, second.
Motion made by Councilman Yudichak, seconded by Councilor Luba. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That is unanimous. So with that, Brian will move to item 9.1 and turn it over to you and the DPW. Yes,
Thank
Brian.
you, Mr. Chair. As you can see, Director Lappin is here with us. When I first got here, as with the fire chief, we wanted to look at the apparatus and make sure that we are being responsible in what our purchases were and what the town's needs were. And that we were doing this in a fiscally responsible way. There was a consultant's report already for the fire department. We were able to reference that. Chief Lytle and his staff have been amazing in really adjusting to the parameters outlined in that consultant report. There had been concerns expressed that perhaps DPW might have too much apparatus as well. And, you know, none of us here on the council or myself are experts and are able to determine that on our own. So we decided to enlist the help of a consultant to review the Department of Public Works, the apparatus, and in plain terms, do we have too much? Do we not? Do we have not enough? Where are we? And so the consultant report took a few months. It came back. I reviewed it with Director Lappin and his assistant. The good news is that nowhere in the reports to say by far that we are way off, way over, or way under. So I was relieved to see with it. However, in the report there are a lot of recommendations. And I'm happy to move through some of those somewhat expeditiously tonight, if you would like to start looking at them. All of you, but I'm certain have been provided with the report. If you shoot to the recommendations, I'm going to start there. For some background, we have 12 large dump truck. Are they triaxle, Scott? Not that big? No, not that big.
One-time wheeler, the rest are 6.
All right, so we have 12 big trucks for 12 snow routes in town here. The first recommendation is that we basically replace one of the, or as the bigger trucks come up for replacement, considering replacing them with a mid-size vehicle. My position on that, after discussion, is absolutely something we will consider every time we make a purchase of a large truck. The problem being, and Director Lappin will have more knowledge of that, with the size of the trucks, it's the amount of pushing and the ability to push. The smaller the truck, the faster you have to go. And if you have a smaller truck pushing a large amount of snow, you have to build up a large amount of speed. And also, I believe there is the issue of how much sand and salt they can carry as well. When you increase the speed of the smaller trucks, there obviously increases the probability of something bad happening, an accident and or a mailbox meeting its demise, or someone's front yard, which we can probably all attest to somewhere along the lines, experiencing some of that at some point, at least in the neighbors. No fault of yours, Director Lappin. Scott, anything on that? The recommendation department should replace them, the larger trucks, medium duty trucks that can be utilized year round. Thoughts on that?
Yes, I understand what they were looking at, but when anybody who lives in town knows that we can have significant snowfall, sometimes very wet snow. Doesn't have to be a lot of snow. 6 to 7 inches of wet, heavy snow cannot be moved easily or safely with a smaller truck. First of all, you're going to cause severe wear and tear on the equipment, probably burn out transmissions. They're made for more doing like parking lots, things of that nature. Where the bigger trucks, their plows weigh almost as much as one of those trucks do. It's a lot of weight. They have much more control. They're covering 11 feet at a shot, where the plows on the small trucks are 8 feet. It's going to add more time on the road, which is more money, more wear and tear on the personnel. Along with the fact, as Mr. Foley alluded to, the capacity. The smaller trucks, they typically hold 1 cubic yard of material, where our other trucks hold 5 to 7 cubic yard. We're able to load each of our vehicles one time. They can cover their entire route and still have enough to do it again. If we went to smaller trucks, they'd be back and forth, and you lose productivity and efficiency.
Thank you. So I would say to you, Mr. Chair, and the rest of council, that prior to taking this job, I was a resident, and the concern is over purchasing of apparatus in this town, and I'm very sensitive to it, almost too conservative sometimes, and understand that with each purchase, I will be putting obviously a magnifying glass on it and really determining the need before we do. I'm sure that's caused some consternation with our fire chief and our director here, but I don't like spending a lot of money on huge purchases unless we absolutely have to. So while there are negatives to that recommendation, I will be keeping a close eye on it with each purchase.
Thank you. Are there any questions who are in front of the next recommendation? Council members? I think the only one that I have is just, I mean, it's probably obvious, but with a smaller truck too, Talon is a pretty hilly area. So the other concern would be, trying to get those trucks up a hill is either going to require more wear and tear, or put them at risk of, placing people in residential, smaller pickup trucks trying to plow up a hill and get caught and slide back down. So is that concern too?
Yes, I can attest to the fact that they didn't get stuck on trying to assist one snowstorm in a 550 4-wheel drive going up Grand Hill. And I got just past the old schoolhouse at Gehring, and I was stuck. And it took me quite a while to get myself out of there. And it was only, 6 inches of snow. Coming downhill would have been much better, but I wasn't going in that direction at the time. I figured I'd just give it a shot to try to open it up for safety.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Brian, you can hop over to the next recommendation.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down still within that, that first one is that they recommend standardizing the fleet to help with employee training, fleet maintenance, by stocking the same parts, and promote less vehicle downtime. That is the, standardization is the wish, I'm sure, of every, public safety director. Now, this group is from Massachusetts. I don't know if they're familiar with our low bid process here. We do lean to DPW as it is to try to lean towards Freightliner, for our fleet of trucks. However, the only way we could really standardize in the future is for the town, for you to vote that we don't have to go with the low bid. And moving forward, Scott, am I encapsulating that, properly?
Yes, we typically utilize the state bid, get a better price that way. And it depends on what vehicle comes in.
Okay.
Council Brink has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess in response to that, could those options be presented to the council, when new equipment needs to be purchased? Referring back to this report and referring to, the standardization recommendations and the potential cost saving measures of standardization, to allow the council to make those decisions, to perhaps not get or spend a little bit more for a piece of equipment that might save us money in the long run.
I would add, I mean, if I could, Councilman Murray, Scott, did we do something along those lines already, or how do we typically do that? Because I've only been here for one truck through ARPA.
We have been typically working on the state bid, unfortunately, for the last, let's say, 5 years, 6 years, everything has been Freightliners. It helps us considerably. We have parts on the shelves that are interchangeable, whether it's a truck that's 4 or 5 years old. Our mechanics are very good. They can get a lot of things to work until we can get new parts, but unless we're gonna write the bid specs ourselves, and then go out and ultimately you're gonna pay more. Let's work on the state bid.
Look, Councilperson Murray, I'm happy to provide that transparency. They don't come up very often, in the capital plan and such. But just try to keep standardization in mind, and we're happy to answer that, when we can.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions, so go ahead, Brian.
All right, Scott, on to the next one here. Strongly replacing, the medium duty truck, pictured there, on page 7 in our packet here today. It's a 2009, Mack 10-wheel dump truck. Where are we with this truck? What are your thoughts on that?
We have looked further into that. We originally thought that the frame was going to, the cabin chassis was going to serve us well for another 4, 5, 6 years and put a new body on it, but further investigation shows that it's probably throwing good money after bad. So we'll take that out of our capital plan and unfortunately probably look to purchase a new vehicle. So instead of 70,000, we're probably 275,000.
Okay, questions?
Seeing none, yeah, we can go ahead to the next recommendation.
All right, the grader service, currently, so let me explain, we have 8 miles of unimproved road in town. And put it in normal terms, so we have eight miles of dirt roads in town. That require upkeep, and the best way to do that is with a grader. And currently, we currently contract out our grading services. They recommend the continuation of a contract grader service. I believe the town is looking to purchase $100,000 for a used grader, one which I support in that we currently pay, is about $30,000, Scott, to rent out the grader.
Yes.
So in 3 years, we would pay off the cost to rent once we have it for just over 3 years, we will have paid it off, or at least saved the money. also, you know, the 30,000 is once a year, correct?
Correct.
If we own our own, we can do it multiple times a year, and what a great year we've had for weather to highlight the need for that. I spoke to the town manager of Roxbury today at CCM and talked to him about his dirt roads. They own a grader there, and it's basically under the same premise to have someone contract that so often that you have to go out and repair them. And you know, we see it on social media, the complaints that the dirt road got washed out, and each time we're going back out. While this is one of the recommendations that I don't exactly grasp in relation to fiscal responsibility.
Thank you, Brian. One quick question is, for Scott, would staff be able, is it difficulty trained to utilize the grader, or would you have to hire, unless I missed it?
No, we have capable personnel. We just take a little bit of getting used to, but just to embellish on that a little bit, since July 1st, we have spent $25,000 on gravel because we can only do it with a backhoe or a payloader with a flat bucket. We don't have the capability of digging the blades in, bringing it back to the middle and respreading it. It's just putting down new constantly. That's $25,000 that we really didn't expect to have to spend on that.
The town of Roxbury has 4 DPW employees, and they're able to operate the grader somewhat efficiently. Building on what Scott said, that we currently don't have the ability when it's washed off to bring it back. And so they have to buy new and keep just dumping it out there. Now with the grader, it can bring it back and save on materials as well.
Any other questions from council members? All right, move to the next recommendation.
I didn't get a chance to talk to the consultants on this one after I talked to Director Lappin. The recommendation is to purchase a ride-on paint sprayer for our striping of our athletic fields. It'll increase the efficiency and the need to perform on a regular basis. My guess is when they were here, those 2 machines that we already have were out for workers.
Yes.
We embrace this recommendation. We already have them.
Okay. All right, so we're just been missing part of the.
Yep.
Okay. Right, next recommendation.
So basically, it's that we have too many backup units, or look at eliminating some of the backup units in some of the trucks. To discontinue the practice of holding on to older units that have been replaced, and replaced equipment should not remain in the fleet until those other units arrive. Scott, the only backups we have are small, is that correct?
Correct. We have
Typically trade in, when we trade something in, we're trading something, we bring something in, we put something out, correct?
for the most part.
Okay, go on.
We have a grader down there that not one single lever, it's probably 60 years old. It's been parked for I don't know how many years because they've been contracted to service out. But typically we get a trade-in value for every piece of equipment that we purchase. If we don't feel that it's a fair value, we'll hold on to it and then we present it to you folks to sell them through surplus.
Questions from council members? Let's see, I'm gonna, recommendation number 6.
Staying on that last one for 1 second, it's something that I'll monitor, making sure that we don't, keep too much stuff around. I mean, something comes in, something goes out. Because we've seen it happen here, we just start collecting and more stuff, and that's more maintenance and such, so, Scott, Director Lappin and myself are sensitive to that.
Yeah, with the highway expansion or garage expansion project, you obviously don't want to, I mean, you'll utilize that as effectively as possible, but don't want it ending up similar to the current situation where there's not enough space for folks to utilize it effectively or.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, number 6, recommendation that the department should move to a computerized maintenance system, basically a tracking system of all the maintenance of all the apparatus we have in our fleet, and have it computerized and professionalized. This is something we concur that we should move there. And we used to have the ability to, we used to have, it was two secretaries, one in the highway building and one in the parks. Those positions have been eliminated, due to the budget. But we agree that this is a necessity, and Scott will look to this, and when it comes budget time as to putting that in based on this consultant report. Basically, we have no one to enter the data right now. And we believe that it could be facilitated with a part-time secretary. So the expense would be the system itself, or do we already have
We have some software for it, but it would take, it's gonna take quite a while to get us everything up to speed.
It's like with anything else, it's only as good as what you put into it.
Okay. Any questions? Good, Brian?
No, I was gonna jump ahead, but I wanted to wait for you to give me the blessing.
Any questions regarding that recommendation? All right, seeing none, we'll move to recommendation 7.
Okay, this is a excavator and a bulldozer. The recommendation basically is the department should dispose of the bulldozer unit, I believe, and start renting it. Is that accurate, Scott?
Actually, they had suggested both of them, but my feeling is the town owns them.
Yes.
When it comes to the end of their useful life, then we won't replace it.
That's the basic, we're into it for nothing. Or I mean, the town's purchased them, they're old, but at the same time, when they're done, it becomes too expensive to maintain. At this point, they certainly aren't. We would gladly get rid of them and love to downsize and start fully contracting. So no need to get rid of them now if we have it we already own it.
Any questions?
So we concur.
Yeah.
But when it's time.
All right. That'll bring us to recommendation 8.
This is the same thing, basically. Yes, when it dies, it dies. And we're done with it. Accurate, Scott?
All right. Good summary. All right. Item 9.
All right, this is the bucket truck. So a bucket truck is something you typically see in a tree service using. In fact, that's what it is. It's typically for tree service, and many of our DPW folks were trained, I believe, in coordination with the fire department here in town to use it. And the maintenance cost is $3,500 a year for inspection of the truck. Basically, the bucket and the boom, when it goes up, it has to pass inspection, obviously, for the safety of our employees to maintain insurance and such. They recommend that we dispose of it and rely on outside contractors for it. Understand that. We own it, correct?
Yeah.
We own it, and we can consider that if and when it comes time to replace it while we're here. However, during an emergency in a town like Talent, with all the trees that we have, I embrace the thought of having a bucket truck for this type of operation when we need it. But again, we own it. It's something that we'll consider. I don't want to say I completely agree with it, but let's make it a consensus choice when the time comes to replace.
And sorry if I missed it. What is the current status or like useful life? How many years do you expect it to continue to be in operation?
It's tough to say on that vehicle because every year, as Mr. Foley said, it goes in, the pins and bushings are all inspected and replaced if there's too much wear on. It's not like we use it all the time, but we'll go out when there's a limb hanging. We contract out an awful lot of our tree work. The issue is our contractor doesn't just work solely for Talent. So if they're in another municipality and we have an issue, we can't expect them to drop what they're doing. So we have to take ours out. How often it goes out, it varies, but we have used it many times, and especially come winter time, we'll go out trim branches that we know are going to hit our trucks or cause issues later on.
And for the repair and replacement, do you have the parts on hand to do that, or is it someone that has to come to do the work?
No, we have to send it out. So it has to be a certified contractor, verified.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Murray?
In this particular summary, the consultant raises concerns about liability for the town. Is that an ongoing concern, or does the current maintenance cover our liability for this equipment?
Is that number 9?
Yeah.
The last.
Yeah, the last.
Stuff.
We have it certified every year, I believe, right? $3,500 a year.
Every year.
We do have it certified every year.
Okay, so that takes care of a lot of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Next, number 10.
All right. This is a very fun one. This is just in relation to inspection of our equipment and who is it done by. They recommend that we should we inspect it in-house. There's qualified inspection folks that do it in-house, or you can actually consult out and have it done. Their recommendation was that we check with our insurance carrier to verify the town has adequate coverage for this function, and ensure that in-house personnel have the necessary license to allow in-house inspections to continue. With that, we asked Mike Wilkinson to check with our insurance carrier. We agreed with their recommendation. We did so, and we are in good position and properly insured to continue the process. Is that accurate, Director Lappin?
Yes.
Right, great. Any questions or comments? All right, we're right along to recommendation 11.
Okay, this basically is all the repairs should be done in one location for highway and the parks facility. So we're, again, layman's terms, you have the big snowplow trucks getting fixed in one building and the lawnmowers getting fixed in another. They recommend bringing those together. We would love that, but we didn't build the highway garage big enough to facilitate that when it happened. We are in the process of, we're heading towards a new parks facility. We don't see the ability or the finances to build that out and move the entire operation for the fleet. So while that is a great idea, I think we missed it. And hopefully they consider that in 100 years when we need to build another maintenance garage. Thoughts on that, Director Lapp?
I agree.
All right. Are you concerned at all? I mean, we've been doing it for years, but the distance between the two locations isn't really that great. Is the person that, are there two separate mechanics that do the work?
There's two mechanics in the highway and one in the parks facilities.
Okay. So it's not as though there's one person that has to drive back and forth all the time to do different work. So there's.
They do any vehicles that have to be cleaned, such as their mowers or anything that's being worked on. We do bring them to the highway garage and use the approved wash bay.
Right. Thank you. That brings us to the conclusion, Brian.
The conclusion is basically, that was the question I asked, as you can see. Do we have too many? Do we have enough? And again, we'd have to do a much deeper dive to really get a definitive answer to that. I'm happy with this here in that you can see, we all know, they didn't say you have way too many, or, you have too many. They basically said each time you're in the right neighborhood, each time give it good consideration. And we embrace most of these recommendations, and I'm glad that we did the consultant report.
I appreciate it, Brian. I think the only comment I have regarding the report is some of this photography might be good. I know we usually are pretty good with visuals, but for future capital budget hearings, doing some more visualization and not some history behind that might be good for the next council when they're going through their discussions of replacements.
Thank you for the recommendation. I concur.
I think you've done a good job, Scott, in the past.
Yes.
You have shown examples when there's significant rusting or, really defining when there's like a key need for a replacement, but I think continuing to do that and working together is good.
I want to publicly thank Director Lappin for going through this. It's invasive. And it was almost one of the first things that we pushed forward there, and I didn't want it to seem like we didn't trust him or anything, but it's good to have this consultant report to back us when you hear we have too much or not enough, that we're in the right neighborhood.
Right. And I guess actually one other recommendation I'll make, I think we did it in 2019, so we did actually a site visit of all the various public works facilities. We did it for public safety. I just think my recommendation to the next council, Brian, is to offer a special site meeting on a weekend to, especially even before the budget cycle, because sometimes there's a lot of new folks learning new things that it gives them a better visual of what the town is made up of in terms of our capital.
That is a great idea. I'm sure that the Director Lappin will have some time in front of council with myself as well, new council. And we'll impart that.
Right.
and hopefully there's something here to remind me.
Councilman Yudichak.
Yeah, definitely agree with site tours.
Yeah.
Are great because the pictures don't do them. Go down a lot of parks, build in and it would be concerned. But anyways, I just want to thank you for doing this, overall, both of you. But are you happy with what came up
Yes,
for sense?
I mean, there's give and take, but I can see where, I mean, we're still on the good side. I mean, my best interest, the town's best interest is, you know, at the top part of the list as far as safety goes for the employees, for the public, being able to do our job.
Thank you, Scott.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions?
Just thank you for sitting through our, and this one too. So thank you.
Certainly.
So with that, we are all set with old business 9.1, so we'll move back to new business. 8.1 is a consideration of a resolution to approve the necessary funds to ratify IAFF firefighter AFL-CIO Local 3954 collective bargaining agreement extension for the period dated July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. And I'll take it away for you, Brian.
And I gave you a sneak preview on this prior to the meeting starting. Basically, the firefighters contract is up. And we're basically gonna just mirror it from last year and push out another year before we get into full negotiations. That's been a challenging year for all. Mike Wilkinson's on and he's gonna explain more.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so as you know, we were gonna enter negotiations for a successor agreement, which is usually 3 years. But the union came to us with the proposal to extend it just 1 year, the current contract. The only change being the wage increase at 3%, which is equal to what we gave the other unions in this year also. So that would be equal to what the unions are getting. We have a settlement agreement for that year, and the union members did ratify it in the middle of August. So if you were to approve it, then we would finalize the revised contract. And then next June, in June of 2024, is when we would go into negotiations for the full settlement agreement that's usually 3 years.
Are there any questions from council members? I think Councilman Yudichak and other folks, consistently given our support for the fire department and honor and respect that they do and appreciate the opportunity to give this 1 year extension, especially with current situations where there was staffing and some unfortunate losses. So I think this is a reasonable request. Obviously, it was approved by the union. So I'm in favor of moving forward with it and going back to the 3-year process with the expenses. So seeing no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as outlined in 8.1.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Lupa. Who's first this time? Councilor Yudichak seconds. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. That brings us to 8.2, discussion and approval of the ADA sidewalks. I'll let Brian take away with a brief summary and then open the floor to questions.
Brief might be challenging. Okay, as you know, when I was hired a year and 2 months ago, I was tasked with bringing the sidewalk issue on the green to a conclusion. I, as a resident, sat in town and watched for years it go back and forth, and it became an issue. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody that's involved. I have friends on both sides who I respect so much. On both sides, the people that approve and disapprove, and I look forward to working with both. And I don't have a vote, but I was asked to make a decision and present it to you. And it has been difficult, but my decision, as you are well aware, is to have my personal opinion would have an ADA concrete walkways exactly like the state of Connecticut standard they had when they did theirs that are currently on the green. However, I acquiesced and agreed to submit the plan submitted by the Historic District Commission. It really comes down to a legal issue at this point. I'm confident in our town attorney. He's provided legal opinion. He's looked at, as much research as he possibly could and is confident, with us, moving forward. Those decisions that he's made or the opinions that he's given, the laws that are involved, have been, gone over and over and over again, in council. I've asked him to review and recheck and review. It comes down to, again, the legality of it. We talked about strategy. We've been planning for this for months. We've been planning for this night, for literally, probably about a year. And, obviously, as we've said before, civil litigation is still possible. And should you vote to have the sidewalks, certainly civil litigation is possible. In fact, we anticipate it. We are planning for it. Any attorney that is gonna bring a case forward will have to explain to the plaintiff who is bringing it forward that should they not win their decision, it will be very costly. And certainly a part of our strategy is to keep a tally of the costs should someone bring litigation against the town. That's to include increase of costs, materials, labor, inflation, staff hours, legal fees, and all that. And we do anticipate that coming, and we are prepared for it. That being said, I believe we are in very strong legal footing, and that's been backed up by our attorney's opinion. In regards to the archaeological stuff being presented today, certainly I presented that to our town attorney, and he believes that you are well within your rights to vote tonight on this, but he wants it in the record, and I do too, that we will research it further, and should we will research it further, and we want to ensure that we would not move forward if we were going to violate any archaeological statute. So that is our position on the archaeological stuff. We can move forward, but on the record saying that the town moving forward, should you vote yes with the sidewalks, we will be careful not to violate any archaeological statute.
One quick question that was raised by President. I know it was brought up during the public hearing, but the certificate of appropriateness, can you refresh us on the legal opinion that was provided by the town attorney?
In a nutshell, it's defined in relation to sidewalks. The Historic District Commission can only lend advice. Not only do they lend advice, we took their advice, and we've presented the council with their plans for the sidewalk.
And just to clarify your other commentary about the archaeological information, which I will pass along the copy that was given to me. I think there's a copy on the table as well for the public of the various sites in town. But you will look into it further and have the resources that were provided in that email that was submitted to the council reviewed if it deemed appropriate.
We'll review those resources, but I would rely on our town attorney to select somebody to himself, and should we need to move forward on his recommendation to move forward with anything else on there.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? Vice Chair Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Brian, you just said, if a yes vote will cause you or staff to research it further, what exactly does that mean? Because we're voting on a plan here. That says to me that plan can change even if we vote yes on this. So I wanted you to explain that a little bit.
That if there is an archaeological issue and that we need to adjust, we would adjust. If the archaeological issue says you can't move forward, or there's a statute that says you can't move forward, we would not move forward. So he wanted on record that we would not violate any archaeological statute.
I mean, to me, that just seems like you're potentially opening up a can of worms. I mean, we got a letter, or I received an email. It was just last night, so I'm not sure if everybody got it or had a chance to look at it yet, from an archaeological study group, I guess, that made the recommendation that this shouldn't be done. So how would something like that affect this process? We vote yes on this, and we have somebody that says shouldn't do it. I'm not understanding how that's gonna affect this whole process, can we just say, or you, as town manager, could you just say, well, guess what, we're gonna do it anyway? I don't understand how that either the law or some archaeological study would affect the process.
So if you look at the letter, there isn't a single statute or law referred to. It's a letter of opinion. And I quote sentences out of there where it's pure opinion, much like anything else. Anyone can throw any law at us. Anyone, like I said, anyone can approach us with litigation. We expect it, almost embrace it. Embrace it because should someone put litigation on us, should you vote yes and someone puts litigation, only a judge can tell us not to do the sidewalk at that point. And I embrace that. But this is, again, in our research, we know of no laws, archaeological laws, that tell us that we can't do this now. But in light of that letter, we're happy to examine it further as we carefully move through the process. That's the nuts and bolts.
If you don't mind, actually, just to answer any other question for your commentary about the project changing anytime, I think, well, it's a very unfortunate example. The firehouse project, I think, is another one where we put it out to referendum, the public got the decision, and a year later, it got brought back to us that we were vastly underfunded that, and drastically changed the scope of the project. I think similar to that, it's a significant project. If there's any significant updates, Mr. Foley will bring it back to us with a thorough update and discuss any changes that need to be made, whether it's an archaeological decision, whether it's something that's logistics, costs. I think they're putting a pretty strong buffer for the proposed cost of this project in hand with veterans, but that's just a little bit of additional information. Okay. Just gonna wait, sorry, go ahead. Actually, sorry, before we go over, are you all set? Are you
Yeah, for now.
Okay, Council Luba.
And that's just my question is, I have a question for Mr. Foley, but then we're gonna discuss further. Okay, so, and just sort of to go along, to build on Mr. Reagan's point here, is that it didn't say not to do it. It said it recommended that we consider, or that we reconsider not going forward with. That again, that didn't say that there was legal precedent or that there was any legal grounds for us not to go forward. Is that correct?
I don't want.
And that it didn't say that this is a archaeological site, but it said that I believe that we've heard on a few different people saying that there's potential and that it may, but there's no actual finding. And in fact, if anything, that when the state of Connecticut came to do some of the improvements, they actually took a look at the green before and did their own study, although it may not have been full encompassing, but they did a study on it to determine whether or not, when they were doing the improvements on, I believe on 74 and on 195, that there wasn't anything that they would be doing that would constitute a disturbance of the ground as it's been put forward. Is that correct?
Accurate.
So, I mean, really, as you said, that these are all just essentially opinions from people without any actual facts saying this is a archaeological dig site that you cannot go forward because of that, or that there's any statutes or regulations currently barring us from doing this.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members?
I have one now. Well, so, Brian, are we breaking any rules? Or I've heard we could lose grants, but then another resident said that we're not losing grants. So, do you have any more information on that? I know you said something to or responded to that resident.
Absolutely. That is absolutely and categorically false. I know of no place in these United States where that has occurred. I watched the circuit rider from, I believe it was the Connecticut Historical Society, laugh and say, no town or no historic area has ever been delisted being, lowered their eligibility for grants for putting in an ADA walkway. So no, it's unfortunate that that type of misinformation gets put out there. It's unfortunate that a lot of misinformation gets put out there. But that's the nature of our job to weed through it and make the best decision with the best information that we have.
Okay, and then keep hearing that we're gonna make it a park. I personally do not want to make it a park. I don't know where that's coming from. Have you spoke about creating that into a park after you lay down concrete, or stamp concrete or whatever.
I'm equally as surprised to hear that. I don't know of any flower boxes, benches, anything. I wouldn't even consider that without, getting a consensus opinion, from that. That is, I don't know what even the difference of a park. That is completely fabricated out of, thin air and laughable.
And I think I also heard it will not keep that current registry. You have checked.
Not at all. Again,
Just want to clarify, because I just keep hearing it over and over. There was a lot of great testimony on from everybody the last meeting. I wish we had more participation like that. I do respect. Which on people with disabilities and the historic district as well, and everybody's opinion does matter. But the biggest one that really stuck out to me was a resident that spoke about, you know, historic accessibility is 60 to 70 years old. The land, this is by Ron Friedman, the land they are looking as history needed. The men and women who fought went to war fought, so everyone would be equal. It's not always been that way. Then he goes on to say, the council has time in history to change that. And that wisely, and as the resident said earlier, history changes every day. We see it. We might like it or disagree with it, but history does not have to stand still.
Anything else we need to check? One comment I'll make is, while I am in favor of moving this project forward, I do appreciate the additional funding that was supported for the historic district. And I do think if there's any efforts that can be made and could be made to do any adjustments, modifications to the historic sidewalks, to either make them safer or at least make them more pristine. I think there's always that discussion of preservation. If you leave it alone, you don't touch it. But at the same time, it's historically wanting to maintain it. I do support any efforts for the future council, future capital projects to do work on that as is appropriate. So that's just my only comment, but otherwise I'm in favor of moving this forward. Other comments?
Comments or discussion?
Or discussion, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I mean, this is something where we've had a lot of discussion and there's been a lot of statements that have been made about us rushing forward and about us not considering this. I think this is something that I know that it's been considered and it's been discussed fully in various versions throughout my 4 years on the town council. I know Mr. Reagan and I have discussed before as well. And it's when even when he was first elected, that it was on, and that Mr. Jones was on when we discussed it last term as well. This is something that we're not taking lightly, that we're not just rushing into, that we're not considering fully. That I think that there's probably been more discussion on this one issue on that in any time on any other issue throughout my entire time here on the council. That this is something that people have asked, have you taken a look into this? Have you considered everything? What about the history? Well, some of the things that I've pulled up on this is looking at ConnecticutHistory.org, which is focusing on the Connecticut history and focusing about this. It talks about town greens and how historical town greens are and how much it means to New England. It says, and I'm quoting from it here, many early town greens served as physical and spiritual centers of towns. In addition to serving as sites for religious activities, meeting houses stood on the green. There were multi-purpose public gathering places, marketplaces, parade grounds, places where local citizens were report for military training, burying grounds, grazing areas, and it goes on and on. Talks about all the different greens, but it also talks about all the different uses. Said, furthermore, townspeople use town greens as dumping grounds for discarded household items of broken equipment. With all that going on, the green was not a peaceful park-like place that we are familiar with today. Rather, as a heavily used communal space, the ground was often muddy, rutted from wagon wheels and dotted with tree stumps and large rocks they had not bothered to remove. And it goes on, and it talks about it, and it gives various descriptions of the various town greens, including the Lebanon Town Green, where it talks about how it's in its original pristine state, but also now it's used as still for cutting hay, grazing animals, and other similar things. I don't see us doing that on this town green. It also talks about the other greens, Newtown's Ram Pasture. It talks about New Haven's Town Green, where last time I was there, there's sidewalks all over Town Green there. So this is something where town greens have their own development, their own history, but they develop as they go along. Some of the things that really have bothered me that regarding discussions is that it seems to be becoming an us versus them. And that's really not what this is. The town green was made for us to come together and to join together and use it, the communal area. That during the last town council, last term, we had a full discussion about the use of the town green and about the restrictions on the town green and how we could really expand on that. I think that this is something that is going to expand. And I know that there's not, one of the things as being town council member I found is that when you try and please everybody, you please nobody. And that we have to make a decision on this. That going back to some of the comments, and again, I've listened to all the comments here, I've taken them all to heart. It's just grass. Well, if it's just grass, why isn't that important? If it's just grass or if it's just dirt, why is it important? Why are people here saying that we shouldn't be doing this if it's just that? That we talked about, different things where we heard somebody saying, well, if the town green, if we're gonna be using this to town green, like town green for various functions, and it's getting too big, why don't we just move it? Or if we want to have these other functions on the town green, why do we have it on that town green? And why can't we move it somewhere else? That's a contradiction as far as what the town greens are meant to be. The town greens are meant to be a focal point, a gathering point for us to get together. And I think that one of the main things is that comments that have also been heard is that there was a statement that still sticks with me from when we first started discussing this. People are temporary, history is forever. No. People make history. People make the history. And the reason why we're fighting about this so much is because of the history, because of the people. Not the grass, not the ground, but the people that use it in order to make that history there. And I think that one of the things is that, we've had, and just looking at it in the past 4 years, we've had an expansion. We've used it for the holiday fest, which again is historical because it goes back to that's what part of the town green was. We've had the Black Lives Matters demonstration out there years ago. We've had a number of different things going on there. That is our current history. And that's what makes this part of our town history is a continued use of the town green. And so to say that, we should deny it or that we shouldn't allow everybody to have access to this town green, I think is actually a misuse of what the town green is actually supposed to be. It's supposed to be a gathering place for everyone. And that I think that this is something that, that I am full support of it. I think that, again, history is made by people using the green. And just saying that we want to keep the grass out there and everything out there because of that's what history was. That's what history was. It's not what our history is. And that's not what's going to continue to make this a historical spot. So I ask all of us here to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Luba. Are there any other comments?
Thank you. Okay, so I've been liaison to PZC for a handful of meetings where they were talking about this. And they have made some very articulate and intelligent arguments about their involvement in making this decision. And their argument is that they have not been involved in the decision process for this project. So my question is, to the town manager, are you comfortable that you've received all the information you possibly can to make a good decision with this project?
Thank you for asking.
Including PZC, well, focusing on PZC, I guess, would be the question.
Can you rephrase that again? I'm sorry.
Are you comfortable that you've incorporated all the information that's available to make this decision,
Absolutely.
including PZC?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not. I've heard very passionate arguments from some of the members of planning and zoning that they feel like their voices aren't heard. And there are people on that commission that are experienced and intelligent, and they're against, they've articulated the fact that they are unanimously approve of sidewalks on the green, but they don't approve of the concrete sidewalks, and they feel like they didn't have any other options to choose from. In fact, their recommendation was we'd like to have 2 more options to choose from before they can make a recommendation. So that's where I'm struggling right now, because we're hearing from both sides of this argument. And, I appreciate and understand both sides of the argument, but my struggle is has everything been considered? And I'm just, as one of the liaisons, PZC, I don't think their voices were really heard in this process, so. If you're comfortable with it, then maybe that would sway my feeling toward this, but, their opinion is, that they weren't really considered in the process.
Okay, let me respectfully say that the PZC is maybe our strongest, committee that we have here in town, and they do, amazing work. That being said, it is my belief and the belief of our attorney and our planner that we did not even need to refer it to the planning and zoning folks. That this was done as a, courtesy. You can see that the design advisory board didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And they haven't met in a long time in avoidance of said issue. There are questions that they brought up. They were advised of the professional opinions in regards to materials. And they, as is their right, disagreed with those materials, as we all are going to have differing opinions on them. In relation to the differing materials, you and all of us have sat painfully through discussions ad nauseum of the benefits, pros and cons of all those involved. And in that, we believe we are making the same, the best decision for all. And that is to use the exact same material that the state of Connecticut has already put on our green. In fact, we're going to do it to a lesser standard in that they have 5-foot sidewalks. We agreed to do it down to 4 with every 200 feet per ADA, a passing way. I embrace the idea of stone dust. And I've gone to Lebanon Green often. None of their events are on the stone dust. And if you were there this past weekend, you would have seen hay balers driving across the stone dust green as there's a very large pasture and it's still baled. They were baling hay this weekend. Hence the need to not have any sort of permanent sidewalk there. Their events are right next to the green unpaved surfaces there. So the pictures provided to us by the Historic District Commission of the stone dust that they would like used, unfortunately for them, display exactly why we shouldn't. You look at those pictures, they have the weeds growing up, they have the unevenness of it. They demonstrate perfectly why we shouldn't use stone dust. So I thank you as always, Mr. Regan. I believe this is the decision that I've made with consensus of many people and with heavy shoulders to make these decisions. But I believe that is the best decision moving forward. I completely understand your concerns, and I can't reiterate this enough. I respect Mr. Powell and everyone on that zoning commission. They do such a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Khan?
Luba, I don't care what people say about you. I think you did great today. You took my wording. I think the town, it doesn't matter is Melville or Tallinn or Tallinn Green, whatever it is for it should be accessible for everyone. It doesn't matter handicap, me, you. In about 6 years, I will be retired, hopefully, senior. And hopefully I can come and enjoy and look at his face, lovely face. Maybe. But I think it should be very much accessible to everyone. And as everybody was saying that you and a couple of other folks that it should not be benches or whatever it is. I think you should, I think that's what we're here for, the sidewalk. We are not here for the benches or flags. And it's got, you do maintenance like, cutting, whatever it is. What the biggest issue would be concrete sidewalk, would it be more time or less time or what is it?
Not as far as mowing goes, it'll be a little more time than clearing it of snow, but we have machines with, rooms on the front with the, plows with rubber blades on them, so it won't get scratched up. Things of that nature, and it's just, realistically, if it's an average snowstorm, probably. The gentleman who clears around here. But in the long run, if it opens it up to the public, that's what we're doing.
Thank you. And then on this side of the road that we have a concrete sidewalk, or on this town hall, or whatever it is. If we use something else on the other side, how is it gonna work? There's two different sidewalks, and then we have on the other side, we have a asphalt. So like how many different sidewalks we're gonna have? Concrete, the stones, and then why can't we match it up something or whatever it is, concrete is to concrete on the same thing, like maintenance, everything else, to me, that's what it is. That's why it makes sense. And first day I was elected, somebody came to me, oh, you're gonna get a letter of by the sidewalk. I said, well, who the heck are you? And how are you gonna get it? I said, okay. It's been about 2 years, we are talking. And I think it doesn't matter if I say yes or no. Somebody is gonna get upset with me. But I really, honestly, I really don't care about one person or two person. I care about the town. I care about the people. And that's the only purpose I'm here. Otherwise, I don't have any interest in politics. I don't give a damn about the politics. I'm here to people to make their life a little bit easier. And that's what I'm here for. And I think with the, and it's been like 3 or 4 years, I think we should make a decision somewhere. Either go for years, if not, for this book in that fucking garbage, excuse my language, but like, it's over. I think we should move on with this and doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Khan. Just one quick question, actually, that Councilor Khan brought up, Scott. The sidewalk maintenance, I think a resident reached out about the maintenance plan. Is there a dedicated plan for public works to maintain municipal sidewalks around town? Or is it something that can be developed so that,
Yes. Yes, I mean, just as we maintain our parking lots and our roadways and the buildings, we can look further at things of this nature.
Okay, yeah, because I think that was another concern that was raised, is obviously we want to build it, but we want to make sure it lasts and it's well maintained. And obviously there's areas that have had concerns. I know there was one that was raised after the public hearing, and I appreciate that you and Mr. Foley reached out and got that particular issue rectified. So Brian, you have something that.
Yes, we do anticipate, again, there's X amount of dollars to this project. Our last sidewalk project came in well under. We're gonna have some extra dollars to repair some sidewalks or extend. We heard Ms. Vallows was temporary replaced. We kind of want to get everything connected. There's an ADA table on the other side of the thing, the town hall here that we'd like to look at as well. So yes, there is a maintenance plan, but we're also looking to improve around here as well.
Thank you. And then Councilor Murray.
I think that the character of our community is one of the most important characteristics of Holland. We've heard a number of people talk about how this is a core feature of our town. And I believe the character of our community is one which is open to everyone. And these sidewalks on the green that we're considering would open the green up to everyone of different abilities. I foresee these sidewalks as bringing more people to our nationally registered historic green, learning about our historic youth roots, and using the green as a community space in the historic spirit of the Green's origins. I'm in favor of moving forward.
Any further discussion? Council, you can check that.
That's okay. Since I think Sam, that you brought up a concern about the sidewalk. We've heard other things about stamped concrete. Is there a reason why? Again, just a refresher. Maybe why don't you stamped concrete, or is it just?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, I believe when you looked at Ellington for the stamped concrete, there were concerns about being slippery, that it was more difficult to manage and created a higher fault risk during inclement weather.
In fact, our first engineered design was based on using stamped concrete and priced out as such. It was blasted by so many that we just backed away from it at that point. They would be my first choice. I have used stamped concrete in my homes. There is a maintenance cost to it. There is an upkeep, sealed. There is a slippery concern, but there's ways around that. And it was panned so badly, we scrapped it. And now, when we look at it logically, the state has a standard. The state used it for ADA. Why would we lower it or lessen it? And let's match their sidewalks.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, well, noting that there may be some dissension along this vote, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, so I'll start right with Councilman Yudichak.
Can I do this? I have one more question. I'm sorry.
No, okay.
So since Brian needs to look into something further, do we need to amend?
I don't
Or just?
think there's any
What is
amendments
like
to
fire
it.
stations, you said, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I think we can just make it very clear in the minutes and for the record that if there are any significant changes to the project as outlined, it's the full studies if they're conducted or any significant changes that may be brought back to the council for an update at the part of our regular business. I think that puts a firm statement out there and puts Mr. Bolan noticed to touch base with us on this project as it progresses, and if it does progress with the next council, because I assume it's not gonna be done in 2 months.
Still discussing.
Yeah, can still gonna go. Yeah, you're good, John.
Good. I'm about to vote no, but it's not because I don't want sidewalks on the green. I do. I just don't think that I don't think this is the best we can do. I don't think this plan is the best we can do. I think there are other people we need to hear from. So that's my issue. I do want sidewalks on the green. But I think we can do better than the plan we have in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Is any motion? Was that? Need motion. Yeah, so yeah, seeing no further discussion, entertain a motion to approve the resolution in line 8.2.
So moved.
So by Council Luba, second by Council Murray, and again, initiate a roll call vote. So Councilman Yudichak,
Aye.
Council Luba.
Aye.
Vice Chair Regan,
No.
Councilman Khan. Aye. Council Murray.
Aye.
And I am an aye, so that is 5-1, which does meet the state statute of 2/3 vote of the council, which was a 5-vote minimum. So with that, this project has passed and we'll eagerly await any updates from Mr. Foley in the next couple of months. All right, with that, we move on to item 8.3, which is a reappointment to the WPCA. As a friendly reminder, anyone interested in filling in vacancies on various boards and commissions can reach out to vacancies at hollandct.gov. There's plenty out there. It's usually posted out back there. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the reappointment at 8.3.
So moved.
Go by Councilor Luba, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Yudichak. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Brings us to item 10, report of the town manager, which was published today, so I'll let Brian do a rundown of that report.
Let me go through some things on the list. The MOU with this, the Connecticut State Police, I'm sorry, the contract with the Connecticut State Police. I reached out again this week to legal affairs at the desk. They've lost a couple of attorneys. They're underwater. We're still waiting on the MOU. One of their attorneys was hired by Ellington as their town administrator. Some of the things that I want to have in the MOU again are in relation to crime data, which I believe can be done. Also in staffing of our resident trooper's office, notification to the town when they're going to be selecting and appointing a new trooper, or when there is a vacancy in the town, having some involvement in that process. That's what I'm looking for out of the MOU. I don't expect too many problems. I'm talking to legal affairs this week. I offered to write the MOU. They had first initially said they would write it. Things have changed up there. I'm going to get together with Attorney Conti and scratch out an MOU really quick to keep the town more well informed on these matters. Other than that, the contract is somewhat vanilla. pickleball. We have so many, people requesting more and more and more pickleball, and, we are moving quickly in doing that. At the same time, in the winter months, there's no opportunity for nighttime pickleball. So I've asked as we move into the fall for our recreation department to consider after hours, those people who work, get home at 5, want to go play pickleball. They opened up, thanks to Bruce Watt, and they created some nighttime pickleball on Tuesday nights, I believe, a 10-week program. At a cost of $50 and per resident, and he opened it up to sign up, and it was sold out. People started at 12:01 midnight to sign up. The first day was open, and I believe by 6 a.m. it was all the positions were filled. So it's a success, and we'll look to build on that. A lot of hirings going on in town. 3 more DPW folks, as many have left. And we also have had a new hire in human services, and we have some vacancies in the fire department, or promotions coming up in the fire department, keeping an eye on that. I want to talk about the senior farmers market nutrition program. We still have 15 remaining electronic benefit cards. That program's been very successful, building on the great work of our people in town that are volunteering, including the Ag Commission and PCC, and our farmers market. To date has been a success, and we're looking to build on that as we move into fall. Everything else is fairly vanilla, unless anyone has any questions.
No questions from me. So I was gonna make a quick comment and, thank Dean Pitney for their service as a case manager. I know they retired. I think whenever there was a food drive or an event, maybe in this past earlier this year, the Red, Warmth and Blue event, I think they were overwhelmed positively by the generosity of the town, and they really managed that food bank, food station really well, and wish them well in the future, as you stated in your report. So I want to give them kudos.
Echo that. Great work by Jean. She always had such a positive and fun attitude down there. It'll be a loss, but hopefully we'll find a good replacement.
Computer check, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, so I see, Chief Vitale's continue working on that ambulances, so still backlogged, but I had asked like a month ago or so about some communication with the chief about the 3rd ambulance. I heard today we had no ambulances in town, and that had to be 3 mutual aids that were in Holland. So that's my biggest concern is something like that. So I've run in a fire truck flying through, I'm like, it's big mutual aid right at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So that is my biggest concern. 14,000 residents should not have a single ambulance in our town. So again, I request that you talk to the fire department.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Do you have any idea what other towns have and whether we have more or less than them?
My concern is our town.
And this is something that happens in every town, that they go down. And that other towns cover for each other when that happens.
Manager of my request.
What's that?
I'm requesting something that I requested a month ago. And that's frustrating.
What are you requesting?
When we talked about the $700,000 that, the town did a good job, we've got investment, I have requested part of that money to be looked at as some of it going towards the ambulance fund. And I had asked, everybody was here, it's in the minutes, that I had asked you to do some digging with the fire department about the 3rd ambulance. Steve, you said you had talked to Brian about this today.
And he has, and I've asked them to provide me with some sort of financial proof that a 3rd ambulance makes sense in the town of Tallinn, and that it isn't an excessive cost burden. Something, not just we want it, something that says we're short and we need it. They have not provided that as of yet. I don't know if they can provide it, and that's why. If they came to me and said, it makes fiscal sense and public safety sense to have it, because I have a consultant report saying we have the exact amount of ambulances that we need. If they come and say, there's a need for a 3rd ambulance, we can afford it and it makes sense, I present it to all of you and we move forward to that. I do not have that yet. I've asked them, I've told them exactly that. If you want a 3rd ambulance, please present me with some sort of data, something, anything to show that we need it. I have not received anything.
However, yeah, I know you sent out a communication, sorry to interject for a moment, that you sent over your executive assistant sent out a communication about the capital improvement projects. You're beginning that process, so they do have an opportunity during that time, when they get ready to submit their capital 5-year plan.
Certainly.
They could certainly put that forward and
At any
reach out to the finance director for any documentation to help build a robust argument for an additional ambulance.
Concur.
Okay,
Great.
hopefully they do so, because I'm sure there's interest.
No, I definitely think I understand other towns have
Yeah.
struggles too, but it's just crazy that we have 0 ambulances in town. And I don't know how many days go on for. And I think other people should be concerned about that too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to build off what Colleen was just saying. My concern is, I share Colleen's concern that to hear that both ambulances in town are in need of repair or not available for use today because of repairs. I did read in the town manager's report that the fire chief, this post safety chief, continues to wait for the delivery of 2 brand new ambulances that we have ordered in 2021 and I believe in 2022. We are on, I believe, a 5-year schedule to replace our ambulances every 5 years, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly. And we are now, perhaps 2 years into waiting for the original order and a year into the second order. Is there any more information about why we can't get something we ordered 2 years ago?
Correct. These two ambulances prior to my arrival were ordered, and things had been great with society in our country over the last 4 years. We probably have 2 newer ambulances and we wouldn't have this problem. However, John checked with the vendor again today.
Yeah.
And there is no new news in regards to the ambulance getting any closer to here. That is not a Tallinn problem. That is an everywhere USA problem in getting these apparatus. So until we have them, we have to Band-Aid and repair as to do every other town with what we have here. We couldn't get a new ambulance if we wanted one at this time.
Is there any alternate options available to us as a town, besides just, sitting on the money that we have committed for these 2 new machines? Should we be thinking about something else?
Yes, actually, we did, a couple of weeks ago, there was an option for a used ambulance, that was available. By the time, John brought it to us and we considered it and we thought, all right, this is a good idea, being that 2 of ours are so in such bad repair. Let's get this 3rd one in here, used one, and then we'll look at shuffling them out as the new ones come in. That ambulance was snatched up and gone, long before we could even, think about it. So they're popping up and gone. John is doing a good job of watching. And in my estimation, we're ready to move quickly should something make financial sense. And that was a conversation with Lisa. She sits down and looks at numbers and math, and John, and it made fiscal sense for us to go ahead and move on that 3rd ambulance. And that was all done in one day, but it was gone the minute it hit the market.
Is there anything we as a council can do to ensure you have whatever authorizations you need to move on something like that in the future? Or are you within, your duties as a town manager, or Lisa's as our finance director? Do you have the flexibility to make that decision within what seems to be a relative?
There's a lot of variables there.
Yeah,
Should we need your approval
Yeah.
for something quick like that again? And he's always looking. If we needed it quick, I have confidence that we could scrum together an emergency meeting to get it over. I don't recall in our last meeting that we needed to bring that. We were able to move and we could have moved on if we had the funding. Lisa was confident.
okay. I think,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. And I think that we probably all share Colleen's concerns. And again, thank you, Colleen, for being so persistent on this, because you're right. It is concerning to hear that our ambulances are not able to provide the service we count on. And we're lucky enough to have mutual aid to fill in these gaps that happen. But please know that this is a concern of the council, and please continue to keep us informed of the progress.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions or comments?
I just have one more thing, and that's I don't know what's gonna come up with the capital budget with all the different departments. But I mean, that just another option just out there. I'm sure the fire department's already thought about it. I don't know, not there. I mean, you could always, you got these two new ones. Hopefully one will come in. Who knows when it'll come in? We're still waiting for the fire truck, right? So anyways, but then you just keep one of the older ones.
Well-
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's cheaper or anything. You keep on an old one, so it's there, and if they need it, it's that's
Again, like with the consultant report with DPW, one comes in, one goes out. I'm happy to evaluate the need for a third. I like the opportunity, if one comes in and keeping a third around until the other new one comes in, because there exists the possibility we'll have a really old one for a while here now. Yes, I agree, that's something that we
Yeah,
can.
it's just
evaluate.
another
Yep.
idea, or just put it out there. I'm not saying that we
Given
shouldn't,
the,
not saying we shouldn't go through and be very,
given the crisis that we're facing, that's probably a logical
yeah,
step to take.
just. That's just my. All right, thank you.
One quick question regarding the steep application we approved in August. Do you have, or Megan, are they aware of when we might get word back on that application for the big law courts?
I'm not, I think it just went a couple weeks ago. I wasn't here for the steep process on the tennis courts at Crandall's. I got here right when it was awarded, so I don't know the timeline on that, sir, so I can check on that for you and get back to you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Right, seeing none, we'll move to item 11, adoption of minutes. On a motion to approve the minutes as outlined in 11.1 and 11.2. So moved. By Council Luba, is there a second?
Second,
All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right, that is unanimous. Brings us to 12 questions, Council. Council Murray stepped away. We'll jump really quickly to the chairperson's report, and then when they come back for correspondence, we'll handle that. So, chairperson's report. All right. We'll go, Mr. All settled for item 12, correspondence to council.
Sure. No problem. There were 17 emails that came in since August 22nd, after the start of our meeting. At our last meeting, I presented through the start of the August 22nd meeting. So this is I think one email came in after the meeting started, which I didn't report on last time.
Okay.
3 emails regarding the proclamation draft, 9 emails regarding sidewalks on the green, an email regarding noise complaint, 1 regarding car alternatives, 1 regarding the Eagle Scout project, 1 regarding contaminated wells, and 1 from the Library Foundation.
So Murray, that brings us to item 13, chairperson report. It was a relatively quiet chair hour in October. Probably meeting for executive session tomorrow to do a review of Matt Hart, and we'll take under other business considerations. Otherwise, not too much else for the chairperson report. We'll actually give a kudos to Bruce and everyone in the CERT team that had a very successful Silvery Column. They tried to pop by towards the tail end, but and only saying what to say on the CERT table and had to head out. But appreciate all the work they did. It seems like it was a great time and the continued expansion of that event. So just kudos for that. With that, communications and petitions from council members. Do want to thank Brian. I did reach out about the tax stabilization fund policy. I think we talked about it during the discussion of the financial updates that were pretty tense with Lisa Hancock, and I mentioned that maybe we should update those because they seemed high for the amount of money being reserved and it wasn't being regularly reviewed. So I know it's something that's oncoming. I know there's been a request from another council member about policies regarding certain establishments. I know you're working on that and moving that forward. So I appreciate that, as well as upcoming policies for review and discussion. Would now open up the floor to any other council members. Council Luba?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First off, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing up the thing, that I would request that, as I previously, suggested or previously requested in other meetings, revision or review of the, revision of chapter 51 of the town code. I asked that, that's be something where if you can put it on the next agenda to be addressed, that would be my request, so that we can, if there is going to be any decision on it, that we can have a public hearing on it appropriately and take action on it prior to, end of session, for us. Secondly, I'd like to thank Mr. Chair for the reflection that we had today regarding 9/11 and a town firefighter. Where I think that was appropriate and that I think it's something that in reflection of September 11th, where I think that it shows that although that we are a nation that's always a nation of individuals, a nation of different interests, and a nation of different opinions, that when needed, that we can all unite and consolidate our might to accomplish anything. And I think that that's something that it shows resiliency of our great country. And then last thing is, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Murray on a successful opening for her show. I was actually able to go over there and view it. And for anyone that has an opportunity, I think that'd be a great thing. I'm truly amazed at the artistic abilities. And so thank you for sharing that with us.
That's great.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And actually, I apologize. I do have two other items for the record for the chairperson's report. We did receive one communication from a government app developer requesting time to meet with either town council chair or town manager to discuss an opportunity. But I also do want to read into the record of communication that was submitted to the town council and town manager from Mr. Samuel Peck of Tolland. Dear town council members and town manager, thank you for your generous donation, $1,500 to my Eagle Scout project. Because of your funding, I was able to purchase all the needed building materials prior to the work days. This funding saved me an incredible amount of time since materials were already on site. In addition, the finance department was fantastic. It made my job so much easier. Thank you so much again. I hope you enjoyed the gazebo. Best regards, Sam Peck. So I just want to congratulate them. I know there's actually been a request for a proclamation for them as well as several other Eagle Scout designees that will be considered at a later date. And Town Manager Cole, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, I think that speaks to the diversity of our ARPA fund distribution that Councilperson Buchek leads. That was an easy add and has paid off. And it might be the best dollar we spent on the ARPA. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other communication competitions?
I've been here about 20 years in town. And I met 99%. I met a lot of good people, very good people, very generous people. And they would love to help. A lot of people help me to succeed, and and they came out to help me. And matter of fact, yeah, a couple of people, they helped me work. They were working voluntarily on my business. The thing I'm trying to say is I would not have succeeded without people that helped me, honestly. Without any money, without any, they helped me. And I'm still, that's why I just wants to return. I need it from them. I want to give it to the other people who deserve it, who needs it. My only request is, this is a small town, very small town, 14,000, 15,000 people. And I really don't know from that end to that end. I don't know who lives there, but there are people travel from that end for a cup of coffee. They are 5 different gas stations, but they come from all the way down to stop and come to me just for coffee. $1 coffee. They just want to see me. So what I'm trying to say to you, is you know what? One hand washes the other. If I can help her, she can help someone else. So get together. We have our issues. But as a community, if we get together and help each other, it doesn't matter what the difference are. But we can still live together. I cannot be happy one time, she cannot be, but you know what, that's life. Life goes on. It doesn't matter what the decision I'm gonna make to that. Somebody can change it tomorrow. Somebody can make a better difference tomorrow. Try to live together, that's all I care for. I mean, the thing is, life is wonderful. With the happiness. Thank you.
Councilor Khan, appreciate that. Councilor-
Thank you. I wanted to join my voice in thanking Bruce for Celebrate Holland. I also hope that he considers putting his face on the next version of the Tallinn newsletter because someone did a spectacular job.
Yes,
painting him. And he was great. He was great on Saturday. It was warm, but it was wonderful to see so many people out and about, and Bruce is always a good sport. And so I do hope that we can see his face on the cover of one of these future magazines that
I can make that request.
yeah, I think that would be particularly wonderful. I did forget to mention earlier, that in my role as liaison for Board of Ed union negotiations, that the negotiations with the teachers union are ongoing.
Okay.
So maybe there'll be more news soon. Thank you for Lou for your kind words about my art show, and I wanted to again thank Arts of Talent for inviting me to the show during the month of September. I continue to be open in the gallery, Saturdays 10 to 2, Wednesdays 3 to 5. And this upcoming Sunday, I'm gonna be open during farmers market hours.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so you could stop by and see my art. It's pretty cool, and it's been really fun to share it with so many people. So thank you for everyone who's come. Also, the Arts of Talent is sponsoring a craft fair on September 23rd, Saturday, September 23rd. This is their annual craft fair. That's always so much fun to attend. So anybody who's looking for something to do on Saturday, September 23rd, there's a craft fair on the green. I think it's from 10 to 4. Thank you.
Like being on the bounce back, I have a couple more requests. So one is, I know there have been some communications I've seen on social media regarding, the former Tallinn being hit multiple times, and I'm sure they reached out, but hopefully we can get an update on how to fix that traffic situation, because it's been hit twice in a year. There've been other instances within that general area, and I think it has been hit before under prior owners, so if there's any updates or any action towards making that space safer, or any measures the town or the resident can do to deter vehicles from being capable of causing such significant damage, I think that would be good.
Yes, for those that don't know, there was another accident at the inn over the weekend, I believe early Saturday or Sunday morning. They called me, I went directly, met the state police there, looked at it. Talked to the troopers again about some solutions. Today, Director Lappin and I went out there, as we did last time, to try to look at some solutions of fixing that intersection. It's clear to me, in my professional opinion, that some more signage is needed as suggested by Director Lappin. That being said, we're going to look to have a traffic engineer to give us a professional opinion. And if we need to involve the state, we will. But I do believe that with some signage, we can alleviate some of that. Scott has some ideas as well, but that was top of mind Monday morning, first thing. And again, I went there myself personally during the accident to meet with the troopers and get their opinion. This time it was a 5:30 in the morning, a newspaper delivery person. So something's wrong there. That's not someone liquored up and coming from the speedway. This is somebody, out doing their regular business on a Sunday morning. Visibility not great, but visibility not bad. So we'll look into it.
All right, and the second request, which I know I communicated to you and Mr. Corcoran, was any update on the assessment that was approved by the Land Acquisition Advisory Committee regarding the Tallinn Marsh to potentially procure and preserve that space.
The update is there is no update. They're really busy. They're gonna finish this as soon as they can. Dave checks weekly.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other commentary questions?
About the, since it started, I don't have your glasses, so I cannot see the Tallinn number 1, Tallinn 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So is there a way we can have a little bit bigger sign on the trucks, so I can recommend that's a Tallinn vehicle rather than.
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I did relay that to Town Manager Foley, yeah.
So I discussed that with Scott today. I will absolutely look into that. I wanted to meet with Mike and get the policy, but I didn't get to him till 4 and I didn't get back upstairs and Mike was gone, but I will look at the policy. I have no problem with that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Seeing no further communications and petitions, we'll move to item 15, public political participation on any subject from the jurisdiction of town council with a 3-minute limit. Again, if you're on Zoom, you can hit *9, if you're on a mobile device or the raise hand function. Otherwise, we'll start with in-person commentary. Anyone they can approach the table and state their name and address for the record. Again, a 3-minute limit on any subject in the jurisdiction of the town council.
John Lappin, 168 Mountain Spring Road. I thank the council for voting in favor of the sidewalks for the Tallinn Green. I support the use of our public spaces by as many people as possible and to be inclusive whenever it makes the most sense. I feel that people should have a basic right to enjoy the outside spaces and to enjoy our rich history. With that being said, people also have a basic right to potable drinking water. And my hope is that the town council is moving as swiftly as possible to ways on how to rectify these contaminated wells and properties. To note, I am not asking for a handout from the town, but rather I'm asking the town of Tallinn fix the issues that are of their own making. The town has been documented as a contributing entity in most of these contaminated wells across Tallinn. As evidence in my correspondence to the council, the amount of time that passes is not just an inconvenience to the homeowners, but it is actually having a detrimental effect to the physical properties at these addresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lappin. Seeing no online participation, we'll continue with in person. If anyone would like to approach the table and give their name and address for the record. All right, going once, going twice. Item 16, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:27 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilor Yudichak.
Jeez.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.